Arsh, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. All right, I think it's fixed now.
Okay. Hi, Gina. Are you still there?
I am here, yes. I got kicked off, but I'm back in.
Okay. Yeah, that was so weird. So thanks for bearing with us.
Oh, of course. Now you want our video and audio off now, right?
Yeah, I mean, you can stay on for a few minutes, but
Okay.
like right before the event.
Okay, you just let us know. I follow directions well.
Did we fix it?
Yep, it looks like it's good to go.
Good morning, Matt. Oh, I don't know if he's there. He may be getting his coffee.
So Gina, Haley, and Brett, this will be the slide, which will be your cue to come on. So this is when Matt will intro all of you guys, and this is when you'll turn off or turn on your video and unmute yourselves. Matt, are you on? Kyle, can you guys hear me?
I
Yes.
can hear you.
Okay.
I'll text Matt. I don't know if he's having technical issues.
Hi, Matt.
Hello. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yep.
Yes, I can hear you.
I cannot make it any brighter over here because the sun's not up. That's as good as it's gonna get. Okay.
All right, so we'll go live in just a minute or so. But Matt, I was just explaining that this will be the slide that Payal will introduce you on, and you'll introduce the panelist. And then when you're done, I'll start the screen share again, and Matt, you'll introduce Alberto, and we'll go right into the startup presentations.
All right, sounds good. How's everyone doing this morning?
Great, thank you.
Everyone else still waking up?
I need some more coffee.
Start the share.
Oh, by the way, Matt, Alberto messaged me yesterday. He wanted me to make sure, you know, to hand off to him after the panel.
Sorry, I'm having trouble with my screen share.
All right, I'm gonna turn off my video for a minute and go get more light. It's so dark.
Alrighty, I think I'll start broadcasting it now, if that's okay with everyone. So just go ahead and mute and turn off your videos, and I'm going to start broadcasting in just a second.
Thank you, everyone, for joining this morning. I'm Payal Patel, Director of Plug and Play's Houston office. Next slide, please. Here's our agenda for the day, and we'll stick pretty close to it to respect everyone's time. To kick off the opening remarks, I first wanted to talk about the genesis of this event. Last fall, Plug and Play launched our energy program here in Houston, given the city being known for the oil and gas industry. However, we see lots of opportunity for innovation in material science, sustainability, and supply chain as well. Houston has the largest chemicals complex in the US, generating $170 billion in revenue annually and employing over 50,000 employees directly. Furthermore, Houston is a natural logistics hub, having the largest port in terms of foreign tonnage, large international airports, and well-maintained freeways and rail connections. So this will just be the first of a series of activities you'll see for Plug and Play to serve these industries going forward. Next slide, please. For the first timers in our audience, we wanted to briefly introduce Plug and Play in case you don't know us. We are a family business with humble beginnings. In the late 90s, our CEO, Saeed Hamidi, owned a rug shop in Palo Alto. That building eventually became the home for companies such as Google, Logitech, and PayPal when they rented some empty space on the second floor of this rug shop. Next slide, please. Fast forward 20 years, our business has evolved into these three pillars. First and foremost, we are a very active early stage venture investor. We make close to 200 investments in startups a year and deploy close to $30 to $50 million annually. Secondly, we run industry-themed accelerator programs all over the world. And lastly, we work with over 300 corporations in our corporate innovation platform, helping them get connected to the right startups. We work with lots of constituencies in our network. You'll see, mentors, VCs, governments, universities, but what we're really good at is connecting corporations to startups. Next slide, please. In terms of our venture activity, these are the winners of our portfolio. We have over 600 startups currently in the portfolio. These companies have gone on to raise over $9 billion in additional funding. And our newest unicorns include companies like Honey, Hippo, European-based N26, and Colombian-based Rappi. In terms of our footprint, these are the 30+ offices we operate in all over the world. We're always looking to expand as well. The Houston dot has a special meaning to me. Last year, in 2019, Mayor Turner and other business leaders in Houston visited our Silicon Valley headquarters. They asked our CEO, Saeed, to bring Plug and Play to Texas, and we launched formally in September 2019. Next slide, please. We operate across 16 different industry verticals. As I mentioned, we launched with the energy vertical last fall. However, we have plans to expand to new materials, supply chain, and healthcare eventually. And all of this would not be possible without our network of 300+ industry partners. When these corporations work with us and run pilots with our startup network, that helps us scale thousands of startups annually, as well as it drives our investment activity. And so that was a lot of information. If you have any questions, you can always email me or find me on LinkedIn. And now it is my pleasure to introduce my colleague, Matt Claxton. He is based in our Silicon Valley office and is the leader of our sustainability vertical. So over to you, Matt.
Thanks, Payal. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining our Houston Showcase event. We're very, too far. We're very excited that you can all join us today and hear a little bit more about what we're doing in sustainability, materials, and in our supply chain verticals. But before we get started with kind of discussion about the programs and the startups, we wanted to put together a very interesting panel with some thought leaders from the Houston area. As Payal mentioned, I'm based out of California, but I do work with a lot of different companies in Houston, some of which are members of the Alliance to End Plastic Waste, which is one of the main partners of Plug and Play Sustainability. So today on our panel, we have Gina Luna, who's the founding board member of the Welch Institute and also the former chairman of the Houston region for JP Morgan. We have Haley Lowry, the global head of sustainability from Dow, and then Brett Beament, director of supply chain petrochemicals of North America, BASF. So why don't we go ahead and get all of our panel members on the screen. All right, good morning, everyone. How's everyone doing this morning?
Good morning.
Good morning. So you all come from kind of different industries. Gina, from the financial sector, but now running a institute that has recently donated about $100 million to Rice University for new materials research. Haley, your title speaks for itself, heading up sustainability for Dow Chemical, and Brett from the supply chain side. So first off, I just want to kind of pass it off to each one of you to introduce yourself to the larger audience. And then we're going to go into how these three different spaces kind of blend together for innovation, especially in the Houston area. So Gina, maybe I can just start with you if you want to just quickly introduce yourself.
Sure. Good morning, and thank you so much for the opportunity to visit and be a part of this. I'm Gina Luna, and I did spend first 20 plus years of my career in financial services at JP Morgan Chase here in Houston, and in some roles across the country. For the last several years, have been doing a good bit of advisory and board work with a host of different companies, and a lot of time spent working on developing the innovation ecosystem in Houston. Was the founding chair of Houston Exponential and worked closely with the HX Venture Fund. One of my community roles has been for many years to be on the board of the Welch Foundation, which is the entity that is funding the Welch Institute. And so I'll stop there. I know we're going to talk more about the Welch Institute further along in the conversation. Thank you again for having me.
Thank you. Haley?
Hi, good morning. Thanks for having me. I'm Haley Lowry, and I lead sustainability for Dow. Our packaging and specialty plastics business is headquartered in Houston, and we actually have one of our largest pack studios. We have eight of those innovation centers around the world, and another one of those is located in Houston. So thanks for having me.
Thank you. Brett?
Hey, good morning, everybody. Thank you for having me today, too. I'm Brett Beament. I'm with BASF company here based in Houston, which is where our petrochemicals business is focused at. We have a number of facilities up and down the Gulf Coast, and our business center is also out here on the Energy Corridor area. My background mostly is all chemical industry for about 20, 25 years, but a variety of roles from sales, marketing, and business management to now a supply chain leadership role. So we come across with not necessarily an expertise in one area, but always keeping the customer in mind when we do things is my focus.
Great. Thank you so much. So, Houston is a very special area. Silicon Valley is known for its software companies and a lot of the very interesting startups and innovation that's coming out of there, as Payal kind of showed you on our portfolio slide, with PayPal, Google, Dropbox. Those are all software companies. But Houston is a very materials, very chemical industry area. And what we wanted to kind of showcase today is how, your three organizations you have never met before, your companies may or may not really work together, are very much all intertwined with one another, especially when it comes to innovation and what we can do in the Houston area. So Gina, I'd first love to turn it over to you. The announcement regarding the $100 million donation to Rice University and setting up this institute happened really only a few weeks ago. It's very new. So maybe if you can just spend a few minutes kind of going over that, and then I'll kind of mix in the other panelists from there.
Sure, thank you. I'm going to change your words. You call it a donation. While it is a gift, a commitment of a gift, we think of it as an investment, if you will, because we're really trying to build something and fully expect there's going to be a great return for Houston and frankly from the rest of the world. So I'll call it an investment. Maybe I'll just step back and give you a little bit of background on the Welch Foundation. And I think it's, kind of one of Houston and Texas's best kept secrets. And then we'll lead into the Welch Institute. So Robert Welch came to Houston as a 14-year-old about 68 years ago with essentially nothing, and made himself to be quite a success and built a significant amount of wealth in his lifetime. When he died, he did not have family to leave his wealth to. So he left it to his employees and created the Welch Foundation. He believed that chemistry had changed his life and had seen it change the lives of so many around him. And so he designated his fortune to fund basic chemical research in Houston and in the rest of Texas. And that's how the Welch Foundation began, and that's what the foundation's been doing for the last 65 years. So over the course of that time, we've invested over $1 billion in research, specifically in chemistry and in Texas. And so that's been funding endowed chairs at 21 universities. It's been supporting faculty research and making grants to graduate students and postdocs. And so this is really just a continuation and a concentration, if you will, of the work that he started funding 65 years ago. And that's the $100 million commitment from the Welch Foundation to partner with Rice to build the Rice Institute for Advanced Materials here in Houston. And our shared goal is really to make Houston the premier destination for materials research in the United States and frankly, throughout the world. So we intend to attract the top researchers from around the world to draw on, all the renowned scientific faculty and research that's already happening at Rice, but very importantly, to partner with the industries that are so prevalent in Houston, all of which have a huge materials science component, whether it be healthcare or chemicals or energy more broadly, manufacturing, the port, all have a huge materials component. So again, we think this is really exciting and expect many more partnerships to develop out of this with the corporate community, with other academic institutions. Again, as I say, to make Houston the center of the universe for materials science innovation.
Yeah, so that's great, and apologies. I think investment.
You don't
I think
need
that's
to
the great. That's the best way to put it. One thing that I guess Haley and Brett's company have in common is they're both founding members of the Alliance on Plastic Waste. Haley, your CEO, was really the one that kind of started and spearheaded this, especially with his passion and need for more sustainable materials. Gina, this foundation and institute investing in the Houston area, investing into universities, getting partners together is really what Plug and Play as a whole does, is bringing universities, corporations, startups, mentors, and just passionate people all together. So Haley, I'd love to turn it over to you to hear about how Dow is really making more sustainable materials, especially in reutilizing waste materials and creating more of that circular economy. So yeah, I know it was a bit of a lot, so happy to turn it over to you. And then Brett, I have not forgotten about you. I'll get to you next.
Thanks, Matt. Yeah, so just maybe taking a little step back for those who aren't familiar with Dow. Dow is a leading material science company, and we have a long history in sustainability, and we take a lot of pride in that. That's really built into the DNA of our company, and we've been successful in that. Over the past years, we've worked on improving our journey from just, improving basic manufacturing footprint. When you think about sustainability, to taking the next step of developing what our customers want in terms of a product. And now we have just launched this year some very new progressive targets that help us really take this like in a completely new area for bettering the world in the next decade. And those areas are protecting the climate, stopping the waste, and closing the loop. So our aim is to become carbon neutral by 2050. That's huge. We want to stop the waste by getting it out of the environment, by enabling 1 million tons of plastic waste to be collected, reused, and recycled. And we want to close the loop by enabling 100% of the products that we make to be sold into packaging applications that can be reusable or recyclable. So these are very progressive, and I think it starts to show you the leadership and the direction that Jim has really progressing our company. And they are critical to addressing like some of the world's biggest problems that our generation has ever faced. And it sets the stage for changes in business models. It sets the stage for changes in manufacturing. It sets the stage for changes in partnerships that we choose, changes in recycling systems, and even economic systems. So we hope that other people will join us in this journey, because collectively we know that we can do a lot more, and alone we're not going to solve this. And together we actually may have a shot at solving this. So that's where the Alliance really comes into play. And this is just one of the many partnerships that we have formed to address the plastic waste issues. And that's the Alliance to End Plastic Waste. So trying to get plastic waste out of the environment. That's a $1.5 billion investment into infrastructure, innovation, education, and a lot of the things that we're doing with you guys, Matt, on the accelerator program. So, collectively, we can do a lot more in this space. And I think it's a huge opportunity to take something that's considered waste and turn it into value. And that's not just an opportunity for the environment or for a social opportunity, that's a business opportunity. So that's a really exciting thing for us.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, Haley, thank you so much for that background. And one of the kind of points I want to touch on is it really takes a lot of people coming together. And one of the biggest hurdles I think we've been seeing in order for really to go to more sustainable materials is the supply chain aspect of it. So Brett, obviously queuing up for you on this. So, we kind of know what BASF commitment towards the Alliance is, what they're looking for, especially in advanced recycling, but there's a pretty big supply chain and logistics factor in there in order for this to really work. So one, I'd love to hear a little bit more about yourself, and then what are some of the kind of innovative solutions and ideas you see in the supply chain logistics realm that can actually tie in with really going into a much more circular economy, creating more sustainable materials as well?
Yeah, well, like I said, first of all, it starts with the products that Haley was talking about, right? To be able to have a closed circle or circular economy and those type of things, or recycling. But that way we deliver it, like you just said, is also a key component. And the reality is we got kind of two dynamic forces fighting, right? People want more and more of the customization, which usually means a special shipment. It gets narrowed down, right? Versus trying to optimize, which usually means some sort of larger, more efficient shipments. So we're doing a number of things around monitoring our network, what we call network optimization projects, where we try to find the right balance between the cost to serve, but also monitoring kind of the CO2 footprint of our delivery methods. You try to do that within a realm of what a customer has for expectations for delivery time, lead time, and those type of things. But it is a balancing act that we talk about. Also, like I mentioned, trying to take advantage of more forward staging, kind of like an Amazon type idea, where we move stuff to barges away from full truck deliveries back to a rail car before you break it up, or even a barge before you break it up for the final delivery. So you have a variety of process steps that you can do to try to take out large energy or carbon footprint swaths. In addition, simply the managing of a network as a whole may help you in terms of limiting or driving efficiencies in your deliveries in terms of people in the same area. Use, again, I've already mentioned warehouses and terminals elsewhere in the country. So it's overall just an efficiency. We also have a number of activities, even with some of our partners, such as trucking companies, where they make investments into equipment that again drives efficiency. They're optimizing and updating equipment, and that becomes part of our purchasing of those services. Who has a better fleet, those type of things, who has a more efficient process, and who's also really committed to sustainability from that standpoint. So you have to do it, I don't think there's one easy answer, but you have to come at it from multiple prongs in order to get an overall benefit for any organization.
Yeah, could not agree with you more. There's going to be many solutions out there, some of which we have not even begun to really think of, some of which are still out there right now, but are in the very early stages and need to be developed even more. One of the things I want to kind of touch on is, in order for us to actually move towards a circular economy and creating these more sustainable materials, there's a lot of logistics. It's incredibly complex. The plastics value chain is incredibly complex. So, one of the things I had a question on, I can open up for everyone, is, in order for it to really work, we have to kind of reverse the logistics back. How do we get that waste back? How do we get it in a way that it's in bulk back to someone that can properly actually, recycle it or reuse it? And then what those materials kind of turn back into for the everyday consumers, such as myself. I completely hear the customization. Maybe everyone stop doing customization so we can get there a little bit quicker. But I just want to open it up is, what are some of the biggest hurdles that people are seeing in this, and what are some potential solutions that we can start thinking of or looking at to get to where we really need to be in the circular economy?
Matt, so I'll start to take a step at that, because I think it's a systemic change. I mean, we really have to change the system. We've always thought about things as take, make, dispose, very linear economy. And to build that back into circular economy, we do have to change the system. So things from having access to recycling, and I'll just, focus on material science and plastics for a second, but access to recycling. Only 59% of the US has access to curbside recycling. So if we don't have the collection to actually get the waste or the valuable material back to where it needs to go, then you're not going to have an in market. And if you don't have an in market, then you may not collect it. So you have to have both of those to really fix the system, and the processing that falls in between. So it really is going to be a systemic change that needs to take place. And that's different that's different in Houston, that's different in Silicon Valley, and that's different in Europe and different in Africa. So you really have to meet the countries or the cities where they are to be able to progress this further.
I would add, I think you're exactly right, Haley, and I would add two components to that. One is, education and awareness, understanding of what's possible in terms of recycling and reducing waste. But I also think helping, particularly at the corporate level, setting up the right incentives so that people align their financial incentives with the environmental incentives, if you will. And you and I both know it's not mutually exclusive. They can absolutely be aligned, but it takes good information, good data, and good systems to help people get there.
Yeah, I would add one more thing. When we look at business models, kind of a word that gets used in the industry, what's the value chain? For those that are familiar with, right? And we have to fundamentally expect value chains to change if we're going to close these loops, right? Money is going to be made at different points in the value chain than it is today, but that's what's expected. And then from that standpoint, the other thing I would add, and I would say just as a consumer, it either takes some sort of push, meaning an investment, it means some sort of leadership, some sort of regulation, either to drive it from one end, or quite honestly, it's grassroots pull. We're all consumers to some degree. We all have the power to influence the people around us and request or require industries to change. So again, maybe that's going to be my theme for this, but there's no single answer for a lot of these questions, but we can all do a part either from one end or the other.
Yeah, yes, it may be a little bit of a theme, but I think it's absolutely need to be said over and over and over again, because a lot of people look for the one silver bullet, and it's not there. There's 100 silver bullets that are needed. The value chain is incredibly complex. You can solve one part, but you have many other ones to go. And as you start kind of going through all the different solutions in the value chain, you might have to rework the previous solutions. So it's really interesting that, you know, it has to come from leadership. It also has to come from individuals really kind of stepping up and taking ownership and responsibility. You know, Gina, you gave a perfect example of how that institute was created because they wanted to give it the money back to its employees, and then you know, wanted to give this money to Rice University to really, you know, drive innovation in the material science realm. You know, not necessarily in sustainability in a lot of different places, because materials is in everything, really. But I think we can really emphasize the need for sustainability and how we can work with all the different parties in the Houston area. One kind of question I have, and again, I'm just going to open it up to all the panel members. Materials, chemistry, you know, supply chain, they're all very kind of slow moving, very conservative, very risk adverse industries. One question I have is like, what has changed that's led to a lot of innovation? And we're seeing it really only in the last year, maybe last 2 years, but it's traditionally been a very slow moving one. And all of a sudden it's really picked up, where there's this big need and big drive for, let's get the latest ideas. Let's, you know, become more efficient. Let's really step in and invest in our people and our communities, and in more R&D. So what has led to that change? You know?
I think part of it is it's demand driven. I mean, there is a focus and a demand for creating solutions differently. I think from the very scientific side, if you will, you know, in talking to some of the best scientists around the country, very clearly we're on the verge of a breakthrough. And that's really combining chemistry and physics with the power of computation and artificial intelligence, so that we can create new materials at the molecular level for a certain purpose, or to have a certain set of properties in a way that we never could before those two were married. And, you know, I think we're really at the early stages of that. And so back to the earlier question about what can we do today? I think there's lots of things we can do in the short term, but, you know, over the long term, we should be thinking about how do we even create materials differently that don't create these issues. And so it's exciting to me in terms of what's possible, because we do have some of the smartest and most committed companies in the world focused on this. I absolutely believe that's where the solutions will ultimately come from. Companies like Dow and BASF and others, driven by both their incentive for their stakeholders and their shareholders, but just because they're solution oriented.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, Gina, from that standpoint, you know, technology is changing every day, and we're going to have different chemistry, different mechanicals, right? And we're investing heavily in those type of things. That comes from technology standpoint. But I'd also call it the communication boom. Maybe you call it the internet or whatever else, right? You know, you go back 20 years, we didn't know where our products necessarily ended up every single time. You didn't have pictures of, you know, landfills on the news every single night. You didn't have, right? And it drives, like Gina said, it drives the demand for change, right? We have an expectation of how we treat our environment, how we treat our people, the types of jobs people have. And so just in terms of the communication, we're visibly more stimulated now. We talk about, we communicate, heck, we read, look what we're doing here. We're on a video chat, getting exposure to, you know, 50 to 200 different people right now. 20 years ago, you wouldn't. You knew what you thought you knew, and that was your world, right? And so now there is the opportunity to communicate, understand the impact of, if I do something here, it has an impact over there. Whether, you know, you see it in terms of finding a specific land site or, you know, garbage site that is now working to recycle with another city 200 miles away, right? You start closing loops. And if that happens over and over again, you start getting into some sort of circular economy, right? But to me, it's about communication, and what we now see, it makes us think differently than we would have 20, 25 years ago.
And the only thing I'd add on to that, Brett, is just that consumers are demanding it. You know, we're all consumers and we're demanding that things change. And so that almost activism from consumers is really fueling brands to make different decisions and the commitments that they've added. It's fueling governments to design different policies like EPR to actually help fix and fund some of these systems. So there have been a lot of things that have changed, Matt, but I think the big thing is driven from consumers demanding it. And honestly, if we want to be companies that are around in the future, we give consumers what they're asking for. We create new products and new systems and new business models, and we design that for the future. And to me, that's one of the most exciting times to be part of our industry is we're watching the value chain reinvent ourselves. We're watching the value chain reshape itself. So I think it's a really exciting time to be part of this space.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. So I know we're running a little bit short on time. I know I did want to leave a few minutes for kind of Q&A from the audience. For everyone watching, assuming at home, like myself, if you have any questions, please feel free to leave it in the Q&A function below. But, you know, I just want to kind of pass it off to everyone, kind of final words on, you know, really bringing solutions from other parts of the world to the Houston area where they can really be incubated and accelerated and grow, and then, you know, hopefully implemented into large organizations such as like BASF and Dow, but other ones that are headquartered in Houston or around Houston area. So, you know, Brett, maybe I start with you, just kind of like final words for the audience on types of solutions that are needed for the Houston area, and kind of what excites you about bringing innovation and bringing all this stuff to this area.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think as the participants here, you know, are trying to find a path forward. Number one is, what are the two industries here, and highly involved with medical, right, and the oil and gas chemical industry, right? So obviously, literally being in the same city next door to multiple hundreds of companies that have an influence is very important for your access, right? But number two is what I think is even maybe more exciting is so many of these companies are just one part of a global entity. I sit here as BASF, but you know, my BASF headquarters is actually in Germany. And so as soon as you can make a change here in Houston, theoretically, you're on the fast lane to probably making change somewhere else in the world very quickly. Mm-hmm. So it is, I think it's a great place to be part of some incubator system because you have a natural platform to expand and literally jump the ocean overnight if you find the right solution.
And from our side, you know, we have an aim to be the leading circular solutions provider at the lowest CO2 footprint. And to do that, we can't do it with just ideas that come only internally from our company. We really need to work with a lot of external players. And I think, Matt, that's where we've seen a lot of success working with Plug and Play, is there are really some cool new startups that have given us different ways of thinking about this challenge and this problem, and that we can plug into some of our existing programs. So I think the more of that exists around this space, Houston is a huge opportunity for that to continue to happen and to grow.
And I would just add, you know, since there has been for the last several years, this focus on building out a robust innovation ecosystem in Houston, it's really been about building on the strengths that we already have here, which is the industry that's resident in Houston and the thriving companies that are here, and making sure that this is a place where early stage companies can thrive and grow up and partner with industry. And so it's a different environment than many other ecosystems around the country, but frankly, that is our competitive advantage. And as we've so often said, you know, Houston is the place where we will solve problems that matter, like sustainability or energy or water. And so we as Houstonians all need to be very proud and very confident when we talk about that. And there is tremendous innovation happening here at all levels, in big companies, in academia, in early stage companies. And, you know, I always say Houston was the place where public-private partnership was happening before that was a word that people use. That's how everything gets done here. And so, we kind of just throw out the rule book and figure out how to make things happen. And that's what I see. And it's incredibly exciting. So we need people to talk about it and embrace that.
Yeah. So, that's kind of the purpose of this. We're talking about it. We want people to embrace it. And maybe to touch on one of your points on, consumers are demanding change from these big corporations and these big brands. One of the ways I've always kind of viewed startups is they are hearing what consumers want at a very early stage. And corporations will hear it when it gets to kind of a critical point. So I think by viewing kind of the innovative solutions and ideas that startups have, you're getting essentially a little bit of a head start as it is on what people are really demanding and looking for. And then they are coming to you with this potential solution. So, the purpose of today is to showcase startups from, all over the US that have innovative solutions in material science, in sustainability, and in supply chain to really show, what problems they're trying to solve. And it's because consumers are starting to demand those problems, and then how they can partner with, large organizations or institutes or nonprofits on really growing and accelerating those ideas and innovations. So I guess kind of one last question that I just got is, it's been pretty interesting to see how the Houston government has also adapted and really been aggressive with innovation, with bringing new kind of industries into the Houston area. The mayor has actually visited Plug and Play. Plug and Play has gone out there a few times. We've been very close with the city. What are some of the other industries that you feel are maybe needed or need to be promoted a little bit more that are kind of also just kind of cast aside? I know it's kind of an interesting question, but just kind of curious, one way to look at it is that Plug and Play works in 17 verticals. We mentioned oil and gas for Houston, we mentioned energy, we mentioned chemicals. Mentioned healthcare. What are some other ones that you feel maybe need some more boosting and startups that kind of come to the area to help those industries grow a little bit more?
I think with Houston being a huge area for the medical industry, I think there's a lot of opportunities to really invest in some new innovations around healthcare and the medical space. I think that could be another area.
I'm just going to go. I mean, it may not be the neatest answer, but quite honestly, around education. And I say that not only, obviously, a lot of us are experiencing education challenges with our kids at home and stuff like that right now, right? But education of our workforce, honestly, the people who are doing the job today are going to be different than they are another 10 years from now, just like they were different 10 years. The use of computers in the field, the use of technology, we expect more of our workers. In addition, a lot of the large companies, especially BSF, we have recruitment goals with various needs from a technology basis, but we also have some from a social basis, right? We need a broader set of a bigger pool, a better educated pool to pull from, whether that's an operator in the plant, whether that's a supply chain personnel, or even the leaders in our organizations at the highest level. So improving education, I think the COVID event is going to change the way we think about education from the ground up. And I think it should. I think it's pretty archaic in some manners, but don't discount the need to educate a workforce in order to drive all the innovation that Gina's going to bring us.
I think innovation in education is a great answer. I see that as well. Not industry specific, but I think something that we continue to be very focused on as we think about building the ecosystem here is just making sure we're creating opportunity and access for all kinds of entrepreneurs and startups, and being, an inclusive community that embraces and supports all kinds of entrepreneurs from various backgrounds and endeavoring to do different kinds of things. We want the Houston ecosystem to be the rising tide that lifts all boats and makes life better for everybody. And that doesn't necessarily happen naturally. It takes a concerted effort. And so, there's lots of people constantly thinking with that lens, what can we be doing to create opportunity for more people? And I think education is a huge part of that.
Yeah, I love that answer. Yeah, investing in creating more education, I think that's absolutely great. So we have one last question from the audience, and then I need to turn it over to our startup portion. So do policies like banning single-use plastics for industries to innovate, and how do players in the plastics value chain adapt or respond? Let me know if you need me to reread that.
Yeah, I need you to policy. Yeah. I'm sorry, it's a long question there. It sounded like more like a sustainability, maybe Haley question there.
Yeah, so in terms of single-use plastics, I think, things like grocery store bags or other types of materials, we want to make sure that we make the best decisions for ultimately the whole sustainability picture. And that looks at things like, what can it be recycled? Can you build it back into the circular economy? What does the CO2 footprint look like by those products? So I think we really have to take that question like on a holistic level and look at all of the pictures. So if I'm just replacing something with something at a higher CO2 footprint, am I doing worse for the environment or better? So we have to really look at all of these things. But I would say, there are different answers for all of those pieces. But the bottom line is really building a circular economy out of plastics is feasible. And we think that there is a system that can change and evolve and get to that same type of level, and it will happen. So I'm confident that that's the case. And plastics do have the lowest CO2 footprint versus other types of materials. And so we want to keep that in mind as well when we're making our design decisions, when we're making our purchasing decisions, and ultimately when we're making the system decisions.
Great. Well, unfortunately, we're out of time for the panel portion, but I want to thank you all so much for joining us this morning and for this great discussion. Brett, I loved your kind of final piece and doing your final piece on the education part. Could not agree with you more. But again, thank you, you all for your time this morning. And I'm going to turn it over to our ventures analyst in our energy program, Alberto, who will be leading the startup portion of today's event. Thank you all.
Great, Matt. So thanks so much for the intro. Good morning, everyone. My name is Alberto. I'm the Energy Ventures team here at Plug and Play, and today I'll be your MC for the startup presentations. So for today's Houston Innovation Showcase, we'll be having 11 rockstars presenting. Mainly, those startups will be in the areas of sustainability, new materials and packaging, and supply chain logistics. So anyway, as I realize we're running a bit behind schedule, let's dig straight into the startups. So for the first startup presenting today, we'll have Continuous Materials, who's building high-performance roof cover boards made from paper and plastic waste diverted from landfills, closing the sustainability loop. So presenting for the company, we'll have Rick Cochrane, Senior Vice President of Business Development.
Hello, I'm Rick Cochrane, Senior Vice President of Business Development for Continuous Materials. I'm excited to be here today to tell you about our company and the impact we're trying to make into the plastic waste problem. The last 60 days have seen changes we never would have expected, but one thing that's not changing is we need to find solutions for the waste that we've created. That's what we're doing at Continuous today at scale. It's hard to believe, but every year 45 million tons of paper and plastic waste still make their way to landfills in the US. We're mining that material to make a world-class roofing product that we call Everboard. I'd like to share with you a short video of our facility in Philadelphia. Since we started producing Everboard, we've already diverted 3 million pounds of plastic from going to landfill. Our roofs are literally all over the country, as we'll show in a minute. It's a lot of square feet. Later this year, we'll be breaking ground on our first full-scale facility in Pennsylvania. That facility alone will divert over 96 million pounds of plastic from landfills. It'll put us into world-class capacity for board making that'll allow us to enter new markets in new parts of the world. Here's a photograph of the largest roof we've done so far. The impact of the roof, impressive. What's even more impressive is we just received our largest order that will be 5 times this big and start being installed later this fall. We've shared with you information on how impactful the product is on removing materials from the landfill stream. But the key is we have a circular product. After its 20-year life, we'll be able to take it back and turn it right back into the next roof cover board. We couldn't have made these things happen without a great team. Here you see some of the companies that our management members have come from. We've married 2 big industries, building products and the waste industry. We're fortunate to have great private equity sponsorship in addition to a key strategic investor, Waste Management. We know how to take things to scale. We're able to take a wide variety of materials destined for landfill and turn them into our finished product, Everboard. We're fortunate with a strong IP suite in place now and more coming in the future. The reception to our product in the marketplace has been frankly amazing. We've already got an OEM relationship with the largest roof supplier in North America, Carlisle. They chose us because of the superior performance of our board in the areas that are key to their customers being satisfied with a great product. Here you see that we've been able to sell the product all over the country, and we continue to grow significantly. That's why we're building the new plant that'll divert more than 240 million pounds of material from landfill. But most importantly, we're totally sold out, so we have to respond. As I wrap up the presentation, we have 3 simple asks. First, if your company is interested in investing in technologies and solutions at scale that can make a difference in the global plastics issue, we want to meet as soon as possible. If you've been inspired by what we've shown in the product we're making currently, please reach out to us. We want to talk to you about how you can become a continuous Everboard customer. And lastly, if it's been interesting and intriguing, we're on all the social media outlets. Please reach out to us on whatever one's most convenient for you. On behalf of all my colleagues at Continuous, thank you for your time today. We look forward to talking to you in the future.
Great start there, Rick. Awesome, folks. So for our next presentation, Houston-based Pelucere develops and manufactures low-temperature curing, anti-reflective, and anti-soiling coatings. Presenting will be its CEO, Bob Lukefa. Stage is yours, Bob.
Hello, I'm Bob Lukefa from Pelucere Technologies, and I appreciate the opportunity to spend a few minutes with you. Pelucere develops and manufactures unique nanotechnology-based anti-reflective, anti-soiling silica coatings. Our products offer world-leading anti-reflective performance. We have a unique low-temperature curing profile and unique dry anti-soiling properties. Additionally, we have a high durability coating and we're wavelength tunable for our AR performance. We have applications in solar, which is our core launch market and what I'll spend most of my time on today, as well as potential applications in automotive, electronics, glass, and polymers. Pellisier was spun out of Oregon State University in 2010 to commercialize research on nanoparticle optical coatings. We have an exclusive license for the patented applications from OSU. During the course of the development process, it was supported by grants from the National Science Foundation and several other technology accelerators. In 2018, Energy Innovation Capital, a leading Silicon Valley venture capital firm, placed a major investment in Pellisier Technologies to help commercialize the technology. We have 3 products in commercialization. Our MoreSun product for the retrofit market, which is a potential $1.1 billion market. Our Talus anti-soiling product for the retrofit market, which is a potential $2.5 billion market. And our solar OEM integrated anti-reflective anti-soiling product, which is playing into a $1.2 billion a year anti-reflective market. We remain laser focused on commercializing these initial products. We are also in early stage development with the automotive sector, the electronic sector, and in polycarbonates. I'd like to spend a couple of minutes on our launch product, MoreSun for the retrofit market. Simply put, MoreSun delivers more energy from existing utility scale solar assets. MoreSun's low temperature curing allows us to apply it in the field. We get significant energy improvements from our anti-reflective properties, and we generate additional energy and cost savings with our Talus anti-soiling technology. In recent commercial applications, MoreSun has delivered 4.4 to 5.1% energy improvement from its anti-reflective properties alone. In field tests across different types of modules, we see 3.5 to 5% energy improvement from our AR capabilities. We also have industry-leading anti-soiling capability. Unlike most anti-soiling products that rely on hydrophobic properties and water, MoreSun is actually a hydrophilic and offers dry anti-soiling thanks to its unique surface structure. In this picture, you see an actual field test in California. After 1 week, the uncoated module on the left is already getting significant dust buildup, while the MoreSun coated module still looks clean. Here you see these same modules after 7 weeks. The uncoated module has a significant layer of dust, while the coated module does not. The instrumented data confirms what your eye is telling you. We see on this chart that MoreSun provides an immediate 4% anti-reflective improvement versus the uncoated module. Over time, this improvement grows as the uncoated module loses energy due to dust buildup. Then we see a rainfall event that cleans the modules and drops it back to a 4% improvement. The cycle repeats with the owner generating an average of an additional energy at this site of around 8%. As you would expect, MoreSun has been extensively tested for durability by both Pellisier and third parties. Our field cured product has comparable or better durability than leading factory coatings. Of course, our factory cured coating is even better. Independent tests performed by a leading OEM estimated that our coating life would exceed 20 years. We can provide a detailed technical assessment and independent engineering report under NDA. Pellisier has designed and builds a patented robotic applicator system that ensures a high precision application in the field. The customer value proposition is very compelling with a payback of 2 to 4 years and IRRs that exceed typically around 30%. We estimate that the retrofit solar market is between 30 and 50 gigawatts of modules that do not have factory AR coatings on them. Pellisier has partnerships with several of the leading solar O&M companies, including an exclusive partnership with First Solar Energy Services, the world's leading solar O&M company with 12 gigawatts under management. In addition to the retrofit business, Pellisier is working with several glass manufacturers and module manufacturers to bring MoreSun's integrated anti-reflective, anti-soiling product into the new module market. Earlier this year, Pellisier won the Iberdrola Startup Challenge for anti-soiling coatings. We are now in the process of rolling out field trials on our new retrofit anti-soiling product for modules that already have factory-installed AR coatings. We're exceptionally excited about Pellisier's family of products for both the solar industry as well as the numerous other industries where we see high-value applications. Thank you for your time, and we hope that you'll call us to learn more about MoreSun and Pellisier's family of optical coatings.
Great, folks. So our first two companies, as you saw here, were on the areas of new materials and packaging. Up next, company Literati, based in the sustainability area, empowers people to crowdsource and clean the planet. Presenting will be its CEO, Jeff Kirschner. Stage is yours, Jeff.
When was the last time you picked up a piece of litter? What difference would it make? This tiny decision can mean more than you think. One turns into many, and many turns into more than you could ever imagine. It can create change. A community of people cleaning the planet, one piece at a time. What are you going to do?
I'm Jeff Kirschner, founder and CEO at Literati. We're on a mission to eradicate litter, and we've built a platform that's powered by people. Here's how it works. You photograph a piece of litter with the Literati mobile app, and that photo tells a story. It holds a ton of data. We're able to understand who picked up what, where, and when, and we use AI and machine learning models to identify the objects and their material and their brand. The community generates all of this data, and we put analytics on top of it, thereby creating insight. Those insights drive impact at scale. It's a community which is now in 165 countries, who collectively have identified, mapped, cataloged, and collected over 7 million pieces of litter, growing at an average of 20,000 pieces a day. That has created the world's largest open litter database, an information set that anyone can contribute to or consume from. And that information can be used to inform policy, influence more sustainable packaging, and inspire personal responsibility. We like to call them stories of impact. Let me share two. The city of San Francisco wanted to understand what percentage of litter came from cigarettes. And so they used our data to understand exactly that at the most granular level. And that data went on to inform a tax of 40 cents per pack, which now generates $4 million a year in annual recurring revenue for the city to clean itself up. And during that process, we learned something interesting, that every city has a unique litter fingerprint. If you could provide that level of value for San Francisco, well, you could do it for Oakland, or New York, or Amsterdam. Let me give you another example. A school in a small town called Modesto, California, they wanted to understand what was lying all over their playground. So they picked up 1,247 pieces of litter, and they learned from the data that the most common type of litter were the plastic straw wrappers from their own cafeteria. So these students went to their principal and said, "Why are we still buying straws?" And they stopped, and they started using reusable options. Speaking of education, we've recently partnered with TED and the Alliance to End Plastic Waste to create an entire educational curriculum, video content, and other resources about plastic pollution and how we can begin to solve this worldwide problem. And today we'd like to announce a challenge. We've partnered with Plug and Play to create the Literati Plug and Play Challenge. You can find it in your app. The minute you download it, just enter the code PNPAEPW, and you'll instantly join a bunch of people who are already contributing to cleaning up the world. Literati started in the woods of Northern California, and today it's spread across the world. It doesn't matter if you're a student or a scientist, whether you live in Nairobi or New York, this is a community for everyone. So join us.
Great job, Jeff. Awesome, guys. So up next, company Clean Robotics. based out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, that's developed an award-winning product, TrustBot, which essentially provides a smart trust system that combines next-generation robotics and the power of artificial intelligence to differentiate recyclables from non-recyclable material. Presenting will be its CEO, Charles Yap.
Human beings get confused about what's recyclable.
Right now, only about 20% of what goes into your recycling bin winds up actually being recycled.
If you've ever gone to a place that has an array of waste receptacles, you've had the experience of trying to figure out where to put your item of waste. That confusion at the point of disposal causes contamination. We make a system called TrashBot that uses AI, computer vision, and robotics to detect waste as you throw it away.
We take the decision that you have when you're throwing away an item into recycling or landfill, and we automate that.
At Clean Robotics, we think that you really have to sort accurately as early as possible so that the industry can then recover as much value as possible.
Using it is a lot like using a normal waste receptacle. You just approach it like you would any other waste station, deposit your item of waste inside. At that point, the AI detects and categorizes that item of waste, and then the robotic component just drops it into the correct place. We have a patent on this, and it broadly covers robotic waste bins. Our system is able to collect data on every item of waste. There's a few things that are important. Number one, the AI gets better over time. Our data is also able to provide waste and sustainability insights with a level of granularity not possible through other means. And this can help cities, facilities, recyclers, regulators close the loop on accountability. And it also allows us to craft custom waste-specific educational content for the specific types of contaminants we see in a given location. This is an example of data-driven educational content we can design based on the specific types of contamination that we see. And now you're thinking this robot sounds amazing. How much does it cost? I bet it costs a fortune. Well, actually, we're price competitive with standard waste stations that you see here, for example, at the Denver airport. This set costs $3,000 a set, and they have 250 stations like this throughout the airport. So when they bought these, they spent $750,000 on just shiny metal tubing. You compare these to what TrashBot can do, it's kind of a no-brainer. We have 14 deployments. We're targeting public-facing facilities, airports, convention centers, arenas, music venues, and malls, as well as office spaces. In our pipeline, we have enough for over 450 TrashBots. That's over 2.2 million over the next 6 to 9 months. To go to market, we are really focused on brokers, haulers, as well as building our own sales affiliate network and using our own direct sales efforts. Here are examples of pilots with key players in the waste industry that we have in the pipeline, as well as distribution deals that we already have. So, in general, for your typical facility, we believe that we can save 50% or more in waste-related expenses. As I mentioned, I'm Charles Yap, the co-founder of Clean Robotics. My background is in social entrepreneurship. This is my fourth social venture. Tanner Cook, our VP of Engineering, has a background in mechanical engineering, nanotechnology, nuclear engineering, and software development. To date, we've raised over $1 million from investors, like the ones you see here. One of the things we're most proud of is the actual quantifiable impact of our technology. 2 TrashBots deployed in a stadium sorted over 30,000 items with much greater accuracy than the public can achieve. And that, in turn, saved 5 tons of CO2 from being emitted. And that is the equivalent of taking 1 fossil fuel burning car off the road.
We're semifinalists in the IBM Watson AI X Prize. It's a competition that started with over 1,000 applicants, and we are in the semifinal 10. Specifically in Texas, we just shipped a unit to Dallas-Fort Worth Airport, and we have a unit installed at the Waste Management headquarters in Houston. So if you want to visit, let us know. We are seeking partners, customers, and investors, and if you think you might be helpful in any of those categories, please reach out. We would love to chat and sort out the solid waste problem in the United States.
Awesome, folks. So it looks like we're more or less halfway through the startup presentations. Our next company focused more on the logistics space. It's Houston-based Velostics, who's building a logistics collaboration platform. Presenting, we'll have its CEO, Gaurav. Stage is yours, Gaurav.
Hello, my name is Gaurav Khandelwal, founder CEO of Velostics. Today we're going to talk about contactless logistics. So the journey started about 4 years ago, where our sister business Chai One solved a problem for Exelon, saving them $10 million a year in logistics costs. These were trucks lined up in front of nuclear power plants, waiting for 8 hours to get into the door. When we explored the problem, we came up with a custom solution that took them from 8 hours down to 3 hours, saving them that 10 million a year. That was a pretty big number. Started wondering, if they have this problem, who else has this problem? So let's explore some trends. You may have used your Starbucks app at your local Starbucks to pay with your QR code or a barcode. You may even have used the parking spot app to use their QR code to do a contactless checkout. But these experiences around QR codes and barcodes are not limited to the consumer world. We found that BNSF launched an app called RailPass 2 years ago, which now has 67,000 truck drivers that are using this app to get contactless access at BNSF facilities. When we looked at these trends, we said, well, let's try to quantify the problem. What we found was a $33 billion problem facing terminals, plants, and warehouses in this country. What we found was that delays, driver errors, and admin overhead were commonly understood. So was demerge. And these are big problems. But what was interesting was that non-productive time was not well understood. This is the time of the receiving desk at the warehouse or a plant where trucks need to get processed. Not to mention, because of COVID these days, you also have to keep social distance and make your facilities safe. Amazon at the last investor call suggested that they're going to be spending over $4 billion in these costs. When we think about this from a use case perspective, we talked to Cisco Foods, where we found that we could save them $467,000 at their facilities, at each facility, by the way, and they have 85 of them. When we spoke with Phillips 66, the largest refiner here in Houston, we found that truck drivers are spending close to 5 to 8 minutes entering numbers at a pin pad at the gate while waiting in line to get access to the terminal. Well, why were these companies taking so long to process trucks? When you and I fly on a plane and the plane lands, the pilot doesn't get out of the plane to go stand in line with other pilots, exchanging paperwork, and then get back in the plane and take us to the gate, do they? Why do truck drivers do that? Why is it that in this country where income inequality is growing at such a rapid pace, that the folks whose livelihood depends on driving, we're making them wait 3 to 4 hours to get turned around? We can do better. But we had to keep it simple. We can't make it into a large enterprise application. So when we looked at it from a design perspective, we looked at the problems facing this industry. We looked at the consumer world. We looked at how we board planes when we scan our QR code at the TSA, and then again at the gate. What we have come up with is the boarding pass experience for logistics. So now truck drivers can receive this Velostics pass as a text message on their phones, or they can use the Velostics app, or we can send them an email, they can print it out, or this can be sent as an executable where third-party app developers can install this app on their phones, on their apps. So now this Velostics app and this Velostics pass can be made available to millions of truck drivers in this country. When they arrive at a facility, all they have to do is use our Velostics facility app to get scanned, and that'll tell them immediately which door to go to unload the truck. Completely eliminating the need for them to get out of the truck, go to a receiving desk, exchange paperwork, and waste 2 to 3 hours. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Velostics, and we're here to change the way receiving automation works. Thank you so much.
Great job there presenting for Velostix. Awesome, folks. So for our next company, Houston-based Topple has created a blockchain purpose infrastructure which increases coordination and efficiency in ethical or sustainable ecosystem, creating stories for responsibly sourced products and unlocking innovative financing mechanisms across industries. Presenting, we'll have its CEO, Kim.
Hi, my name is Kim. I'm the CEO and founder of Topple. And today I would like to share with you the vision of the future that Topple is empowering, where sustainability meets technology. The picture we're going to be painting for you is a day in the life 10 years from now of a coffee farmer. Our day in the life starts at 5:30 a.m. before sunrise because there are some things that technology probably won't change about farm life. It's harvest season, so once our farmer reaches the section of coffee bushels that he'll be picking for today, he takes out his smartphone and logs into the Topple-powered traceability application using just his fingerprint. At this time, he's going to take a few pictures to show where today's cherries are originating from. These images, along with simultaneously captured geotag, will form the first chapter of the story that consumers see when they purchase our farmer's coffee. The harvest is now going to continue undisrupted by technology until our farmer arrives at the washing station with his days healed. At the station, an attendant weighs our farmer's bushel and then scans a QR code generated by our farmer's app to log their origin. Linking this transaction in such a way adds additional information to the coffee story, while at the same time augmenting our farmer's self-sovereign digital identity as part of his production history, which over time will increase his creditworthiness. The attendant now records the weight of the provided bushel, which immediately triggers a push notification to our farmer's phone for his review. Once the farmer confirms both the day's price and the quantities provided, a two-way transfer is executed on the Topple blockchain, with a digital twin of the coffee moving to the washing station and the e-money transfer to the farmer's account. Now, right here is what I want you to observe. Something a bit different happens. Since our farmer is actually a part owner of this cooperative washing station, only 90% of the funds flow to him directly, and the other 10% move into his contribution account at the washing station. As they are attempting to actually save up money and purchase their equipment they need to roast these beans themselves. From the washing station, the coffee continues its journey, accumulating information to complete the story that our farmer opened. By the time it arrives in stores and cafes, a QR code is accessible to consumers, which, when scanned, will provide them with a complete, verified, and batch-specified story of the coffee they are purchasing. It is this transparency and reliability, coupled with the ethical content of the story, all enabled by our Topple blockchain, that differentiates this coffee and justifies the price premium it commands. We want to end by saying that this story only is the beginning. We can imagine incorporating the verification of sustainable practices like agroforestry, which opens an entirely new source of revenue for our farmers via an instrument which we call an impact credit, a tokenized representation of a specified impact that can be sold to governments and even multilateral institutions chasing verifiable results. At the same time, we can imagine how digital history and the creditworthiness of a farmer builds just by recording their production. And this will unlock access to financing and insurance that can completely reshape the economies of rural communities around the world. We are truly here to empower businesses so that they can prove their ethical and sustainable practices, change the world, and we help them prove that. Thank you.
Great job there, Kim. Awesome, folks. So for our next startup, which is focusing more on the logistics space, we'll have Cognitops, which essentially helps warehouse operators make better decisions by applying machine learning to untapped data.
Good morning. My name is Roger Cunahan, and I'm the Chief Revenue Officer at Cognitops. Cognitops is a new warehouse planning software that helps supply chain leaders simplify their complex fulfillment operations. Let me tell our story. Cognitops was founded in 2018 by a blend of technologists and experienced industry veterans of major systems and automation firms. We are a team of 15. We're based in Austin and Atlanta. Based on our experience of delivering solutions inside the warehouse, we knew there was a massive problem in supporting the leaders of complex fulfillment operations that we were creating. Ops leaders, they're asked to perform some of the most complex optimizations in business. Like, how do I exceed my customer expectations with the available labor and equipment while delivering profitable business results? The problem is they're supported with a myriad of disconnected tools like transactional WMS systems, machine control systems, and basic labor tracking software. These systems are generating terabytes of data, but that data is thrown away and it's not providing any insight to the users. This problem is only getting worse. E-commerce and the rise of point automation robotics are exacerbating the demands. Now, work needs to get out faster, fulfillment needs to leverage machine investments, and the workforce is changing in ways that make bringing the right team together more challenging. Operators are answering these questions only based on their experience and their intuition. So we built Cognitops as the brain to connect all of the data across your operation and provide the answers to the most important managerial questions in real time, based on advanced AI predictions of your DC's performance. We stream a time series data set through a digital twin of the building to answer, how many people do I need by hour in each area of the building? Will I get all of my orders complete today? And what is my real-time fulfillment efficiency? What is the next most optimal way to release a group of orders to meet my SLAs? And what exceptions do I currently have? And what can I expect in the future? We answer these questions through a set of future-looking dashboards, providing current and predictive performance, leveraging time series data, understanding the state of your building hour by hour to forecast every area and its capacity and performance for the remainder of the operational horizon. In the upper left, you see plain text prescriptive notifications providing clear decision guidance. We provide predictive exception identification and performance predictions based on your shipping cutoffs. In the lower left, you see we can provide staffing guidance by functional area compared to the current staffing and the level of work remaining. In the upper right, we match that staffing against the planned and released work to ensure we are matching our resources against the demand and predicting the time remaining while identifying any exceptions to fulfilling that work. And finally, we can recommend individual moves within pick areas. These are only a few of the examples primarily focused on your team and your labor. We also look at your inventory, your equipment, and any other resources within your building. This platform has delivered tremendous value for our customers and their complex operations. We've delivered a 30% cost reduction and aggressively reduced order fulfillment speed and increased the capacity of our clients' buildings. Please reach out to meet our team. We'd be happy to share more. Thanks for your time. We look forward to learning how we can help. You can email me at roger@cognitops.com. Thanks very much.
Great, guys. So for our next company, I'm extremely excited to present portfolio company Data Gumbo, which actually has raised recently a Series B round led by L37 and followed by Equinor Ventures and Saudi Aramco Energy Ventures. So Data Gumbo, based out of Houston, essentially provides blockchain-based smart contracts to automate contract execution between industrial companies. We'll have its CEO, Andrew Bruce. Stage is yours, Andrew.
Hello, my name is Andrew Bruce. I'm the CEO of Data Gumbo Corporation, the industrial smart contracts company. We are automating contract execution between one or more major industrial counterparties. The way we do this is we use IoT data to serve as triggers to satisfy the commercial intent of a contract between one or more counterparties. The IoT data triggers the intent of the commercial contract. In other words, was something delivered, yes or no? Or were people delivered, or was a service delivered? And as soon as it is triggered and says, yes, it was, then we create a new block. The block goes onto the blockchain. It is verified through a consensus process, and this is used as an immutable record of exactly what happened, which can then be used to automate payment terms. So the benefit of this is that you can take an archaic process like the one at the top, which is typically a 30, 40 step process within a major corporation, and we turn it into a process on the bottom where you take a measurement, you look in the price book, and you make a payment. So the customer only pays for what is actually delivered, and the service company actually gets paid for performance delivered, and they get paid on time. So the net result of this is something like this. We believe that this is data from a customer. So just for one rig drilling continuously for a year, you can see that they estimate that they can save approximately $9 million a year. And the cost of doing nothing is $25,000 per day. The reason we're raising money is because we have significant demand. It's growing significantly over the last couple of months, so we need to be able to staff up to meet the demand. We closed an initial tranche of funding from L37 out of California, Equinor Ventures, and Saudi Aramco. And the board has authorized a funding round of up to $10 million, which is available. So we have $5.5 million available for new investors. So ultimately what we're doing is enabling companies to get better visibility into the operation of their business so they can manage it more proactively using certified data from the field. You can reach me at andrew@datagumbo.com. Thank you for your time.
Great job there, Andrew. Awesome, guys. So for our next company, we'll have CargoCast, based out of Portland, Oregon, which essentially optimizes your warehouse and workforce in real time using IoT location data. Presenting, we'll have its CEO, Dan. Stage is yours, Dan.
Hi, my name is Dan Deephouse. I am CEO and founder of CargoCast. My background is really as an operator, product builder. Spent the last 10 years at a company called MuleSoft, where I joined as part of the near founding team, built their cloud integration platform as a service, ran product strategy through our IPO and eventual $6.5 billion acquisition by Salesforce. So got to experience the whole ride from zero to Salesforce, which was pretty cool. And afterwards, I started looking for what's next for me, and supply chain has always been an interest of mine. And so I started digging into what problems can be solved. And everybody knows that warehouses today are a bit of a mess. Like, why do we manually scan goods? Why are people manually entering things into computers as stuff goes in and out of the facility? Why are people searching for freight? And obviously, this would all be a lot easier if freight was a truly digital asset. And what has happened in the last 1 to 2 years is that there's been some real shifts in IoT technology that really make this now possible and open up new possibilities. So we have new RFID hardware, which can cover a very wide area and provide real-time GPS-like coverage in terms of location data. We have ultra-wideband technology maturing. There's new batteryless Bluetooth solutions coming to the market next year. And of course, we've got continual improvements in vision and machine learning. And so you start to think about, okay, well, how could I run a warehouse differently if we had this? And it opens up all sorts of different possibilities. We can do digital inventory by knowing where everything is in real time. We can validate what goes in and out of the warehouse. What you see here, we can direct people where exactly to go in real time by showing them where that freight is and the ultimate destination of that freight. And what's interesting is if you extrapolate this further, you can start to do things like simulate warehouses and apply artificial intelligence to figure out what's the best way to run this warehouse for peak or non-peak type situations, so you minimize the amount of resources needed to move freight through that warehouse. And ultimately, the goal is that you're going to get better utilization out of your fleet, your warehouse, your team, and your vehicles. But there's a problem. Existing IT systems today don't have this concept of location awareness. They may know that there is freight that needs to go to door 5, but they don't know where that freight is in relation to door 5. And that prevents important optimization and automation opportunities. So CargoCast solves this. What we are trying to do is be the operating system for the smart warehouse. We take IoT data from a variety of data sources, Bluetooth, RFID, vision, and we use that to understand what's going on at a detailed level. And then we can use all this data to automate. There's no more manual inventory processes. We know where everything is. We can see what goes directly in and out of the warehouse, and so we can validate that shipments are correct. We can use heads-up displays to direct people where to go in real time. And we can start to understand, okay, here's an autonomous vehicle that needs to be unloaded. Let's figure out who's the right person to bring over, who may be the closest to go on and load that. And then where it starts to get even more interesting is we can combine all of this with system of record data, like what trucks need to leave when they're predicted to arrive, and use it to figure out the optimal way to schedule everything in the warehouse so you can move more freight with your existing resources. So let's say, for example, Bob is unloading freight from a truck and there's an outbound truck that can go on. Instead of Bob just following the normal process of putting that into storage or into staging, we can direct him exactly where to go in real time. Or there's a truck that needs to be loaded. Bob is closest. Let's use Bob to go grab that freight that needs to be loaded and put it on there. And there's hundreds of these little things that start to add up that really start to impact efficiency within the warehouse and the overall utilization of your fleet. There's a lot more to cover, but it's all we have time for today. If you'd like to learn more, I'd really encourage you to come to our website at cargocast.io and watch our Smart Warehouse demo video. It shows you in 3.5 minutes end-to-end everything happening. And we'd love to get in touch with you about any questions you have or any opportunities there might be to apply our technology to your operation or your customers. Thanks, and hope to talk with you all soon.
Great job there, Dan. Awesome, folks. So it looks like we're looking at our last startup for today. Actually, our next company, Philadelphia, our Philly-based NextMB, is building a platform for automating and optimizing operational decisions like routing, scheduling, and assignment. Presenting will have its Chief Operating Officer, Andrew Hogland. This is yours, Andrew.
Hello, everyone. My name is Andrew Hoagland, and I'm the COO here at NextMove. So NextMove, we help you automate and optimize your operations. We have two core products. One is an optimization or a solver, and one is a simulation tool. And the reason we got started is because we have a ton of background in all of these different areas. And we wanted to make sure that in the new world, we can make your models repeatable, testable, and interpretable, which is rather difficult in today's environment. And we know this because we've worked at Lockheed Martin. Our CEO was there doing ballistic missile simulation. We know this because our CTO has his PhD in operations research. And they actually both found themselves at a startup in Philadelphia called Zoomer that got acquired by Grubhub. And when they went to Grubhub, they were tasked with building out the decision engineering team, which involved all things optimization and simulation. So real-time delivery, routing, ETAs, assignment, scheduling, the whole 9 yards. And while they were there, they learned a lot of things. But first and foremost, they learned that models should be easy to develop and build, simple for analysts to use, modify, and understand. They should be lightning fast. They should be versioned just like your code base, and they should be able to integrate with your modern serverless environments. Well, what they obviously figured out was that's not the case. And there's kind of 2 core issues. So number 1, you could pay for something in the market. There's a lot of what they're called legacy commercial solvers, and they're very expensive, they're hard to use, they're black boxes, and they're built for operations research PhDs, which if you're a CTO, you can get away with. But if you're anybody else, it can be very difficult to use. And of course, they're not built for those serverless environments that we talked about. So some big challenges. We also learned that homegrown solutions could actually be even harder. It's very expensive to hire these teams. It requires a slew of engineers and data scientists, and it requires an outsized effort to get everything started, not to mention the expertise. If you have any issues with churn on your team, you name it. It doesn't provide a flexible sandbox. It's hard to iterate, and it relies on a static set of historical data slices. So a lot of challenges. So with all this in mind, we decided to build NextMove, and more specifically HOP. HOP is our optimization solver. So what is our vision for HOP? It's very simple. We want to empower developers to automate an organization. And we don't just mean in some of the traditional traveling salesman problems or last mile delivery. There is an endless amount of things that should be automated and optimized within an organization. And HOP provides the tool set to do that without needing some of those traditional solvers or in-house solutions. So how does it help? Well, first and foremost, we are a developer tool. And so we want to make it as simple as possible to A, put that automation in place quickly, B, iterate on it because your requirements will constantly be changing, and C, make it very easy to analyze the performance and the results so you know if it's working, when to change, and what to do next. So we are a little unique. As far as we know, we're the only solver in the market that's built on something called decision diagram. Now, we could spend a whole presentation talking about what that is and why it's important, but essentially we found it to be the optimal performance for optimal performance and speed, which is why we chose it. We also have a very specific skill set and background in decision diagramming. And this allowed us to make things very simple. For example, our models compile down to binaries, everything's built in Go, it's JSON in, JSON out. We are definitely not a black box, in fact, quite the opposite. We are incredibly flexible and customizable. We are source available. We run in your own environments. And of course, it's really easy to integrate with different mapping tools and BI tools. Our goal, right, was to shorten the path from what if we wanted to solve this problem to putting it into production in the shortest amount of time. We have a really strong set of customers thus far, enterprise customers like GoPuff, Rappi, and Via, and we have incredibly strong investors such as YC, FirstMark, 2048, and Dynamo. We would love to talk to anyone who's interested about some of the different industries and use cases that we've found successful thus far. On-demand delivery and distribution are huge. E-commerce, scheduling, and cloud infrastructure are just a few that come to mind. But the concept of automating and optimizing within your organization can obviously be very wide and very broad. And we'd love to discuss the different potentials with you. Thanks everyone so much for your time, and we look forward to having a conversation with you. Okay, here we're going.
Amazing job there, Andrew. Great, guys. So it looks like it's a wrap for today's startup presentations. But all in all, it was a pleasure to host this amazing session, action-packed with great startups. And with that, I'll be giving the mic back to my colleague Tayal for closing remarks.
Thanks, Alberto, for that. And thank you to the audience for joining us this morning. We had a great panel session. Thank you again to Gina, Haley, and Brett for participating in that panel with my colleague, Matt. And then also, as you may know, at Plug and Play, we're all about startups and showcasing them. So thank you to all the founders and startup employees that participated in our event today. We wanted to let the audience know of some upcoming events that might be of interest. Tomorrow, we're actually hosting a Smart Cities Innovation Day. In addition to the former CIO of the city of Palo Alto, we've partnered with the city of Houston. Their Chief Innovation Officer, Jesse Bounds, will be leading a panel session tomorrow. The registration link is below. You can always you can always find these events on our calendar on our website as well. And then additionally, on October 14th, we're hosting a wildfires, hurricanes, flooding, and other climate catastrophes webinar. This is hosted by our insurance vertical, our InsurTech vertical, and they'll be talking about technologies to help insurance companies manage risks as well as minimize costs. And then next slide, please. And then again, we actually ended a few minutes early, so we hope you enjoy getting a part of your day back. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to my colleague Omer or myself, and please follow us on social media. Have a good rest of your day and stay safe.